Hey, everybody, welcome to the A Show. I am your host, April Hunter, and I am here with Homestead hottie Sarah Barbosa. Hey, welcome. Thank you for coming on the show
Thank you
tonight.
for having me.
So we put out a little question and request to see what people would want to know, and a lot of people wrote in and they had some pretty good questions for you. So Sarah is a homesteader and a crazy chicken lady, and she does her own thing by her own rules, and
Yep.
she's gonna help us learn a little bit about homesteading and kind of explain what we might want to know if we're just getting started or if we
Yep.
have limited space. So there were some really good questions that people asked, and I'm sure you have your own things you can talk about. So before we get started, I want to say welcome to everybody joining us. Hey, Allie. Hello, Chuck. Hello, Eva. Hi, John. Hello, baby. Thank you for joining us tonight while we populate. And so, Sarah, where are you right now? And hi, Chris. Hi, Alexa.
We are in San Antonio, Texas.
And how hard is it to homestead there?
Probably one of the easiest places in the United States to homestead. Very little winter time. We have very little downtime. We do have
Okay.
a small winter gap, so we can grow things that are like the colder weather, carrots, broccoli, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I would say we're one step below San Diego. San Diego's
Okay.
probably like perfect, and we're
Yeah.
like
Perfect climate right
close
there.
second. And you guys as well in Florida, you have a beautiful climate.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about because I have a really hard time with it.
Really?
So, yeah, I'm in zone 9A.
And
And
so are we.
okay, well, then you're the person whose brain I want to pick because I will get partway there. And I also have like
Yeah.
heat resistant certain things like heat resistant peaches and things like that. And I'll get part of the way there and something will happen. Either they'll die or something will eat them. And I'm wondering if other people run into these problems too. So if anybody out there has questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. Homesteading, John is asking. He doesn't know what that means. Of course you don't. You're Canadian. You should know this stuff.
Do you know one of my biggest followers grouping is from
Mhm.
Canada?
Okay. I believe it. Well, people do this everywhere. Homesteading is the new terminology for well, permaculture is even newer for that term, but for gardening, for living off the land, for being self-sustaining.
So they
So,
originally called it victory gardens. And basically, a victory garden was during war. Great great grandmothers you probably had set up gardens that were sustainable and sufficient on their property. They used what they could find, what they could grow, small chickens, things like that. Um, and so basically, homesteading is basically the same thing.
okay.
So it's
Um,
basically just using what land you have and utilizing it to the best of your ability to support your family. It's not about really making money. It's not about, um, surplus to anyone else but your family.
mhm.
Canning's a part of that. Freezing, dehydrating. That's all kind of mixed into there, but really it's about seasonal growing.
Okay.
So if that
Okay.
kind of helps a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I can tell you're in hot climate right now. I can hear your fan.
Oh no, it's the AC, but yeah, we
Oh, is that what it is?
I got a little sun today.
Oh, nice. Nice, nice,
Yeah.
nice. And hello to everybody who is joining us. Hi, Chris, Steven, Leo. Thank you. Apparently, we look amazing and sexy. Um, Drunk Chrissy, hey. Yeah, welcome, welcome. So, for people, okay, so first off, for people who live, so you've just explained homesteading. For people who live in really small, limited spaces, or who have an apartment and maybe just only have a small deck or a window, is there anything you could suggest for that particular situation where they want to save a little money and they really hate buying organic because it's so expensive, but they want to? Is there anything they could do? Actually, it's a double-sided question. Is there anything they could do with small spaces? And what is the best route to go to afford healthy, good food without breaking the bank, even if they're not able to homestead?
So there's a whole lot you can do. First off,
Okay.
in any state, in any major city, you can contact a local gardening group, your local chicken pages, your DPW, your water supply companies, a lot
Wait,
of those companies,
what's DBW?
like trash recycle.
Okay.
A lot of times they will do giveaways. So, for instance, here in San Antonio, 4 times a year they do fruit tree giveaways.
What?
You drive up and they hand you a free tree of your choice. You have a choice of, I want to say, 8 fruit trees, avocado, peaches, apples, whatever. That's free to anyone that lives within the state of Texas. But they host it here in San Antonio.
Oh, wow.
That also is hosted throughout other cities within Texas. You just have to show up and go. Every state, every city will have something like that.
Are you sure? Because here in Florida, we battle on that. Like, I actually lived in a neighborhood where they tried to tell us we had to get rid of our fruit trees because they were concerned about fruit rats. And I had to battle where I live for my chickens too.
Do you live in an HOA?
Yes.
That's why. HOAs, so how it works is we like to think as like the government is like the big overall tells us what to do, and that's not true. So it actually, the smaller government to you dictates your property. So your HOA is the closest to your property. That will dictate anything you can have on it. Then it's town, county, state, federal.
Okay.
So if the federal government says you can have a type of plant, but your HOA says, hey, we don't want that here, you legally abide by the HOA because they are the closest entity to your property. That does get tricky when it comes to even, those who grow, say, cannabis or those who grow other things outside of, your standard edibles. This is where it becomes a legal issue because we like to think the government is here and really we're like right out here and the HOA is going to trump the federal government.
That's crazy.
Which is yes, it is. It's very
that crazy. That is crazy because they abuse power so much.
Yes. But that's what we're paying for is, the HOA atmosphere, I guess. Because we live in an HOA. I live in an HOA myself.
Do you?
So I do.
Okay. All right. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were talking about the tree program. So let's go back to free trees. Go on.
Okay. So on top of that, again, with your DPW, a lot of times they do brush collection. Now, in many states, brush collection, the DPW will turn that into compost. They then give it back free to any resident within the town that pays for those services. So if you pay for trash, you may qualify for free mulch, free soil, there's a ton of stuff that you can benefit from. Now, not every state will do this. Yes, write it down. And then you can also look at bulk centers. So a bulk center is going to be any place that supplies more commercial, but a lot of times they do have a very, very good price. So for instance, for me to go buy, say, a bag of soil, it's a cubic foot, that's going to run you about $10. Okay. A yard is going to be 27 cubic feet, and I can get it for about $20. Okay. So for 2 bags, I can get a yard. So when we look at logically the saving money aspect, sometimes we think convenience saves us money, and that's not true. Yes, you can go to Walmart. You can go to Walmart and get your bags, but one, it's probably not as good quality, which is going to cost you in the end. So looking at any place that does bulk, they're going to be your best bet. And hey, if you have 2 or 3 friends that want to start themselves, go in on it.
Okay.
Chip drop, for instance, is free. That is all over the country. That is free mulch. It is dropped by tree cutters. Oh my God, what's the word? Arbors.
Chip drop. Chip
drop. Yes.
Okay.
And they are tree cutters that instead of bringing the chips to the disposal centers, they will give them to you for free, chopped up, and they'll just bring it to your property. So if you're looking for a good amount of mulch, that's a really good way to do it. Now, the only downfall with that is you're on a waiting list for probably about 5 days. So plan ahead. Other than that,
the COVID waiting list for 5 days isn't a big deal anymore. We have all learned patience. So.
Yes. The other thing that I don't think is talked about enough is if people are on food stamps or EBT, those qualify for plants starts. at any nursery federally, nationwide. You can walk into any nursery that takes EBT, and they will sell you plants that turn into food.
Really?
Yes. You can also purchase seeds and anything to get you going into a garden. So that is something that I don't think a lot of people know.
I didn't know that.
If you do have EBT food stamps, you do qualify to get. Those are considered food. So
wow, I did
that's
not
a good
know
one.
that. That's it. Yeah, as Steven said, clap. Yes, clap.
There's
Uh-huh.
so many programs out there. Walmart, for instance, you can buy seeds at Walmart for 50 cents a bag. You're gonna get, say you buy broccoli. There are 200 seeds in that pack. You may only
That's a lot of yucky broccoli.
Well, here's the thing too: is the whole plant's edible. Don't just eat the flower; eat the whole plant.
I know. I just don't like it.
Well, it's man-made anyway, so.
Oh, is it?
People, yeah, it's a selectively bred plant. So is kale. They're all related. Kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower. They're actually all the same plant.
Oh,
The
really?
same exact thing. Yep.
Huh.
They're just bred for different parts of that single plant. So the more you know.
I'm learning so much. My head's going to explode. We haven't even really started, but hey.
So for small properties, so for instance, I have a small property. I'm 6,400 square foot backyard. That's where I homestead the most. If you live in an apartment, my biggest suggestion would be microgreens. Microgreens are super packed with nutrients, super easy to grow, minimal effort. I mean, I'm talking you get food within 5 to 20 days.
Wait, what are microgreens?
Microgreens are baby greens. So,
okay.
All right, so you have your seed, and there's your seed sprouts. You're going to have what looks like a white root, and then the stem, little couple of leaves. Okay. So microgreens are literally just growing them just to 4 inches or so. Some you can get a little bit taller, but basically you're only growing them to that first stage, and you eat them that way. So, for instance, like spring greens, those are all microgreens, and you're going to pay a buttload at the store because you're going to the store to get them. I mean, but literally you grow them in trays. So the trays are around 21 inches long, and they vary in width, but they're only about this deep. So you don't need a lot of space. Baker's racks are really good for this. And Baker's racks you can get on Facebook pretty cheap, Marketplace or Home Depot. They do not require lighting like other plants, which is the benefit. So you actually starve them of light. The idea is that you want them to stretch. So when plants want light, they get really what we call leggy. They get stretched. And that's what you want. You want that stretch. And then as they get tall, you just chop them and eat them. This is something like mung beans, sprouts. Those are microgreens. Okay. They're just, but you can do broccoli, you can do sunflowers, which sunflower plants are edible.
Yeah, my chickens like them.
All your greens. Yeah. I mean, but all your greens, you can do this. Lettuce, bok choy, whatever. All your greens are able to be eaten within a week.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
So living in a smaller area, apartment wise, that's a really good one. They also have micro mini plants, which are newer to the market. They are plants that grow to full size in under 10 inches. So lettuce that's full grown at 4 inches tall and is a head of lettuce. Tomato plants that are 6 inches tall that make tomatoes. Peas. I mean, that's a really good option. Those you would need a light for. And then container growing is a great option. You can grow anything in a 5-gallon bucket. Potatoes, carrots, cabbage, and 5-gallon buckets. So if you have a small patio, you can have a whole garden right there.
You poke holes in the bucket, or you just dump the dirt in and go?
Just drill a couple holes. You can do some mulch at the bottom if you want, just for a little drainage area. Dirt, put your plant in, and you have a little garden. So I truly believe you can garden anywhere. It's more of the person's drive to want to do it. I personally think anyway.
Okay.
So if you really want to do it, we will make it happen. I will help anyone walk through to get it done.
Well, I think a lot of the group that I have on this show really kind of wants to do it or really wants to learn. Me personally, I want to do it. I find it great to just go over and cut off some greens, dice them up, add some seasoning and some stuff on there, and then I've got a salad that night because I'm like, I don't know what I want to eat. I'm like, I'll just do this. I'm too lazy to go to the store.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can go out into my yard and get food because I hate going to the store.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Yes, controlling bugs. I was going to say I have one with the bugs, critters, vermin, things that come along and eat your stuff right before you pick it. Like I lost a bunch of pineapples last year with that. And the fuckers didn't even take the whole thing. They just took a couple bites out of it and just ruined the whole thing, and left the rest of it there for me to look at.
So bugs are really, so this is kind of like one of those like topics that are like, it can go on forever because there's so much information. But for instance, a lot of times people get rid of the wrong bug. Okay. So we go into a garden and people say, oh, I hate ants, and they get rid of the ants. Except now that they've diminished their viability of their plants getting pollinated. Plants have symbiotic relationships to many bugs. We have to harness that relationship. So ants are extremely good for the garden. We need to get the idea out that they're bad. There are some that are destructive, like leaf cutters, which then yes, I would say, do what you got to do. Fire ants, okay, if they're in a bad spot, do what you got to do. But ants actually are attracted to plants because plants give off certain nectars. The problem is that we then have aphids, and people think that they go hand in hand. So in order to control one, you have to know how the other one works.
Okay.
If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
So for instance, when you plant, say, a pea plant, aphids sit at the bottom of the plant, and when the ants come up, they stop. Aphids produce the same nectar that the top of the pea plant does. But in studies, they show that if you can just remove those aphids, the ants will go to the top and pollinate your plants. People tend to blame the ant for the aphids being there. And it's kind of the other way around. Like the aphids are the problem, not the ant. So a few things you can use that are super garden friendly, people friendly, pet friendly would be neem oil. Neem oil is a bit on the harsher side. It is all organic. It comes from the neem tree. You just have to read the instructions on how to dilute it. You do dilute it pretty heavily, and you always want to spray at nighttime because you can burn the plants in the sunlight. But it is extremely good for getting rid of the aphids, the spider mites, cabbage worms, things like that. Another one that I prefer to use would be pure Castile peppermint oil. That's all. It's just
You mean Castile peppermint soap? I have that.
Yeah. Okay. That. So you dilute that. I think I probably do, I don't know, I have a 1.5 gallon sprayer. I do a good squirt until it gives a little bit of a foam. Now that you can spray pretty much any time during the day. It won't kill the bees like the neem oil. It does kill everything on contact. So any insect that you have, it will kill pretty much on contact, except for anything that has an exoskeleton like the roly-polies. So roly-polies, here's another one that people say, oh my God, they're destroying my plants. Actually, they're telling you something about your garden. Roly-polies eat rotting material. They also need moisture in the soil. So what happens is if you're lacking organic material and lacking moisture, at nighttime, they're coming out to eat your plants. So they're actually giving you a hint, hey, you need to add some organic material to this. So if we can learn how to read our garden, because the reality is if nature around you isn't eating your garden, you shouldn't either. That is hands down. If animals aren't trying to destroy what you are building, you shouldn't be eating it because there's something there that's not natural. There's something there that is toxic. Okay. So it is a good thing. I know that sounds so counter.
No, it's kind of like they said, it's something about, I remember someone saying, which apple would you take? Would you take this apple or the one with the worm in it? And somebody's like, I want the one with the worm in it because at least the worm wants to eat that one.
Yeah, and that is very true. Like right now we have an abundance of ladybugs. I just took out some old cabbages, which they go to my birds. It's a nice treat for them. And but we are overloaded with ladybugs, which is actually a really good thing because ladybugs are a predatory bug. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is that when we see a lot of aphids in a garden, people will say, I'm going to buy ladybugs and put them in there. And I always say that is the worst thing you can do for your garden because you're falsely adding something that is not being attracted to your garden. So you can't control a bug. You can't control what food source those ladybugs want, right? So adding ladybugs to, say, a greenhouse or an enclosed facility is a better idea. But if you're going outside to an open air and you're like, be free ladybugs, eat the bugs, they may go, hey, the neighbor's garden looks way worse than yours. I'm going over there. So, but you can use predatory bugs as some form of bug control. Mm-hmm. Because again, bugs do have a symbiotic relationship to your plants and to each other. So utilize them. We have to stop thinking that this is like a demonic, they're just coming to destroy things. No, they're there to tell you something. So
I had some questions. Do you use plants for those specific reasons because they do have symbiotic relationships with insects and things like that? Like I moved into a house and the mosquitoes were just rampant in the backyard and everything, right? So my dad and we went to Walmart, Lowe's, a couple other places to go get some plants, and we looked for lavender and other things that will naturally repel the mosquitoes, and we kind of went around the yard and planted lavender and other rosemary and other plants and things like that. When you said the thing about the mint, could you just plant mint around your garden to keep the bugs instead of spraying the oil and things like that?
Here's the thing about the oil I was talking about is actually a soap, and it is so concentrated with the essential oils that's what it does. It actually burns the bugs. Can you plant mint? Yes. Mint is one of those things that if you plant it, though, you better friggin' love it because you're never going to
be everywhere.
You will have a lawn.
I have mint.
Yeah. It's like, it just spreads.
Yeah.
It's not like, so yes, you can, anything that's aromatic. So that is your basils, your lavender, even sometimes stevia can be used this way. Citronellas, anything that is very aromatic can be used. Stop it, kitty. Can be used as a bug control. Here's the issue with that. If you're not removing the source of life with mosquitoes, that is water, then you will forevermore, no matter how many mint plants you put out, you are going to have mosquitoes. So it's a catch-22. You have to get rid of the food source, get rid of the hiding place, and then you treat. You can't kind of go to one and then the other. Like you can't start with, if you're trying to, mosquitoes are one of those things that they hide in grass as well. So if you have boggy, and if you have a very boggy, grass, I would actually suggest you to get nematodes because nematodes live in a boggy atmosphere, but they eat mosquito larvae. So, you kind of have to start where one end to the other. You can kill, but then you also have to stop the production of eggs.
Yeah.
And mosquitoes are one of those things where, like, if there's a cup on your back patio that has been there for a week with water, there are going to be mosquitoes in it. So, but yes, you can use a plethora of plants.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that answers my question. No, thank you.
And actually, you can rub that on yourself. So if you grow mint or basil, you can rub it on yourself as a bug repellent.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Huh.
Which is
smell
very nice on a hike.
Yes, it's definitely. I did not know that was an option. I do have peppermint out there and basil, and beats the hell out of Skin So Soft.
Yeah.
So, I saw your vertical gardening picture on Facebook, and that looked amazing. Having all the pumpkins and cucumbers just hanging down from. I was like, that's amazing, especially for a small space.
Yes, so that's exactly why we have it. They're called cattle panels, and we
Okay.
get them just at any Tractor Supply, any feed store. And they are a 4-foot wide by 16-foot long galvanized fencing panel for cattle.
Okay.
And what we do is we just hoop it over, and with T-posts in each corner, tack it down. 5 feet at the base seems to be the most structurally sound width at the bottom, but you can grow anything over that crawls. I mean, any vining thing.
I'm gonna show a picture so people get a visual right there.
Yeah.
So
anything that you can hoop over, it can be melons, it can be cucumbers, it can be beans, peas. We do a lot of loofah there. We do a lot of those are pumpkins and
plus it keeps the rabbits off of them too, probably, right?
Except for the only thing you have a hard time with is rats.
Yeah, I know what I mean.
Because rats climb. But other than that, so for pest control for those, the chickens are our friends.
I bet.
So, but yeah, the cattle panels are super easy. You can walk right underneath them. I'm 5'4" on a good day, and I can walk underneath them, put my hand, I probably can just reach the top of them. But they're really good for really vining beans too.
Yeah. That's crazy cool.
Yeah. So I love the idea. I love the look of that.
I do too. It's like Wonderland with food.
It also, for me, like, I don't have trees in my yard besides trees that I have in pots right now. So that gives my birds shade in the Texas heat. So we do them down. Now we just put new ones in. So if you can imagine, there's a garden to the left, a garden to the right, garden in the middle. And we have 2 rows of those down, each side of the center garden, so that my birds can just get away from the heat, which is really nice. And actually it benefits the plants a lot. You shade the root system of the plant. So now, the plant isn't overheating in the heat of the sun. Now the fruit is protected from the heat of the sun, because nothing's worse than a cooked, fruit on you're like, 90-degree fruit, like yum, so it does protect it a little bit, and it gives the leaves a broader top, so you don't have fruit. That's my cat.
We're used to it on this show. It happens all the time here too. 2 dogs and a cat.
Oh, she's crazy little kitty. Huh. She actually found us. We didn't pick her out. She actually managed to get into the homestead.
Oh, that's
when
funny.
She was the size of my hand.
Oh.
She managed to find her way in and said, "I'm home." And we said, "Okay, I guess so." And that was that. And now she doesn't leave me alone.
So that's how we know the earth isn't flat, because cats would have pushed everything off of it by now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She is one, this cat, she will find anything in the house to get in, get on, she's like a demonic dog. Hi, kitty.
So Eva's asking, how many chickens do you have?
We actually have 4 at the moment, but we have 18 ducks. So I lean more to the duck side.
Really?
I do.
Okay. Well,
I do.
Why?
I love my chickens. Why? Many reasons. The ducks we have are called Muscovy or Muscovy. They're one of the oldest domesticated ducks known in the world. They're from Mexico, South America. They taste like veal. They don't taste like a traditional waterfowl duck. They're technically not waterfowl. They're in their own genus.
So you don't need water to raise them?
They need water to clean, but they don't live in water like mallards or mallard-based breeds. Actually, Florida has a ton of these.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have a couple sitting out back now.
The ugly perk
red,
ducks.
Right? Yes.
Yes. So the red are called caruncles, and that is where their oil glands are. Unlike mallard-based breeds, where the oil gland is in the skin, which can give them that greasy kind of, which I love, but a lot of people don't. These guys are not waterfowl, so they're perching fowl. They live in trees. So they are different. They don't quack. They use less water, less feed. They eat more vegetation, more protein-based bugs. They're more insectivores. They are hardier than chickens. They don't need calcium. They don't get egg bound. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons why they're not susceptible to the avian flu. That's another.
So now they're not the high maintenance that most birds are.
Not at all. No. So typically, in the morning I open their coop up. They have the free run of the house. Now these are technically migrating birds. They will fly. I clip their wings for safety reasons. I'm in a very small area. They don't seem to mind much. They don't. They just kind of come to the door, knock on the door, and they want a treat. And but they are almost silent, which is really nice for HOA living.
Okay.
They just are unbelievably quiet. Like I can't even. My neighbors to one side didn't know we had them for 3 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
I mean, they are outside all the time. So I love them.
So they're a food source or an egg source or both?
All.
Okay.
We do eat them on occasion. We don't eat them as much as, say, meat chickens that we raise. Eggs are phenomenal. These I would take over a chicken egg any day. Oh, my little guy. Hi, buddy. Honey, if you're still in here, the baby's waking up. If anyone's chiming in, we are on with April Hunter.
Hello.
So on Twitch, the A game. So if you guys can,
we're close. We bring the A game. We're the A show, but
A show. That's what I'm sorry.
It all works.
I can read that. Oh, there's Daddy. Say hi to April.
Hey, Daddy. Yeah, I actually met Daddy before Mommy. So what's up?
Yeah, and it's been, it's crazy. It's been 10 years.
Has it really?
Since we met? Can you believe that? It's been 10 years.
How I met you originally, as for people that don't know, how I originally met your husband was we were working Comic Cons together, horror conventions.
Yeah. And I met you at the first one I met him.
It was oh really?
In Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, right?
Yeah. So actually that's the show I met him at, and he moved home with me like 12 weeks later. And we were married a year later. So
when you know, you know.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's awesome.
So,
you guys were sitting right down from me. I was right with I was with J Fife Art.
Yeah.
That was a fun show.
You were on the same row as him, and I was down the other end. I was there with the snakes, if you can remember way back.
Yes. Because I came over. I came over and I wrapped the snake around me.
Yeah. So
that was a big ass snake.
Yes. Penny passed away, unfortunately. She was a 15-foot red tail. She was a rescue from, I want to say an old pet shop. And she had a tumor inside that was inoperable. And she ended up passing away like 7 months after that show. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I remember being shocked at how heavy it was. I don't know if it was you or somebody put her around me. I remember because somebody took a picture. I was wearing actually a green snakeskin dress that day.
Yeah.
And then I had the snake around me.
I have pictures somewhere.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I meet the most interesting people at the conventions. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
That was the first show when I met my husband there. So, and that was 2012.
Wow. Huh. I'm glad it worked out.
I know. Me too. Would have been a sad story.
Well, it would have been everybody's a lesson or a blessing. Some of them are hard lessons.
And both. They can be both. I think he fits that category. So
exactly.
Yeah. So but we went from one extreme to the other. Doing I did rehabilitation for the wildlife for 10 years. I'm from Boston originally. I'm not even from Texas. I'm from Boston.
Oh, are you?
Yes, we came here 6 years ago. So I went from growing in a cold climate, because when I lived in Boston, I actually worked for the country's largest cannabis facility.
They had one then?
Yes. So that was, I came here in 2016. So we're going on 6 years.
Okay.
I think someone's outside.
Definitely sounds like my house.
The dogs are on squirrel patrol.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So yeah, I went to
yes,
school in Boston. What area are you from?
a very small town you've never heard of, Blackstone.
You're right. I haven't heard of it.
You're right. Yeah. It's a little bit south of Boston and north of Providence.
Okay.
So I was in, you know, I say I miss home. I don't miss home. It's got snow and I miss the lobster. I miss like the food, and
The
family.
lobster.
Yeah.
Where cat keys are actually the thing that starts your car, not your pants.
Pak the car in the Havadiad.
Yeah.
See, and when I started doing the conventions, my accent was much stronger. And because I did more interviews then, people would say, "You're from New York? You're from Jersey?"
Yeah.
And I'd say, "No, it's Boston." And they'd say, "Oh," and then the conversation went from, you know, "Where are you from?" Never, "Oh, what do you do?" And so I worked very hard to lose the accent.
Yep.
Because I got so tired of people focusing on that. And I'm like, okay, did you not just look at like the 15-foot snake on me and my parrot and my tarantula? And
well, let's be honest,
like,
okay? Like they said in TED, is there anything worse than a female with a Boston accent? Okay. You did good.
I know. So it's like every time like someone brings it up, I'm like, yeah, mocky mock. I know. All right. Like, let's get over it. Or if I get really like raspy, which come allergy season, I always bust out my auntie's accent. Okay, guys. And everyone goes, "Hey, I have an aunt like that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. We all do." It's like just that raspy Boston-y, like,
yeah,
and you got to throw in Tom Brady in there,
I saw a meme the other day and I almost died. It was like, Tom Brady a month ago, I want to retire, spend more time with my family. Tom Brady a month later, fuck them kids.
Yeah. I think we've kind of all felt like that a time or two.
Like, Anyway, okay, so
I feel like that about my chickens sometimes. They get into a plant and I'm like, dinner is coming up in about an hour. Suggest you act right.
Mm-hmm. So I had a couple of questions sent on Twitter. Somebody asked, and I don't know if you are familiar with this. He said earth boxes or regular garden, and dolomite is worth it or just hype?
Personally, I go with Huggen culture. Huggen culture. So Huggen culture is a German. It's an old German technique of. You can also call it soil less. So soil incorporates some type of sand. Huggen culture actually takes material that is on the land that you're prepping and uses it as a bed. So I don't buy anything. Like I don't buy into the hype of a lot of stuff, because a lot of it is like even mushroom compost, which is really good for your soil. But companies will oversell it, where you can go to most, like I said, your DPW and get the same stuff free. So Huggen culture anyway is basically when you get into a property and you have a couple of trees, some bushes, some leaves, you're literally taking those elements and turning them into a raised bed. That is the best thing you can do for raised bed gardening, mound gardening. So what you do is you start with the heaviest, densest material at the bottom, logs. Then you go to your sticks. Then you're going to go to like leaves and grass. And then you can do compost on top of that. That is literally all you need.
Really?
And what happens is, now, backtrack side note, we have to stop looking at soil as something different than our own body. So when you build a soil, it is like you're building your gut flora. That is what we need to understand. You are never feeding a plant. You are feeding the gut flora. Okay. You're feeding the microbiome of that soil. So the soil itself necessarily really doesn't have much to it unless it has enough organic material to feed the microbiomes. Those microbiomes, just like your gut bacteria, break down the food into a bioavailable substance on a molecular level for your body, for a plant's body to then absorb. So sometimes we go too, we're buying probiotics,
Too
right?
fancy.
Too fancy. Break it down to the essential. Just
we're getting too
basic.
fancy.
So that's what people have to understand is you have to look at your soil as literally a living system. You're not feeding the plants, you're feeding the system. The soil is very important, but honestly, your compost is going to be black gold. That is what they call it, black gold. Compost. That is all you need.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if you live in sandy soil or clay. Compost. That's your answer.
Okay.
Just buttloads of compost and mulch.
I know. I don't compost. I need to. I should.
I don't either. I get it from the
it?
town.
Okay. All right. I'm circling.
I mean,
that.
you can, but you can make your own compost, and that's a beautiful thing. But when you have a lot of birds, your chickens, your ducks, and I have quail as well. So we raise 3 birds. My garden scraps go to my birds because essentially I'm eating what's coming from them, and I don't necessarily want to spend the extra money on feed when I'm already growing organic feed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
it makes sense.
That's kind of how we go.
Okay. And somebody asked about legal issues and loopholes with a lot of
yes
homesteading and gardening. Now, I remember a while ago reading an article that pissed me off so badly. So there was a couple who had a garden. They own their property. They had a garden forever in their front yard because their backyard didn't have any shade. Do you know? Do you know that this article that I'm talking about?
You're talking about the couple in Florida, correct?
I don't know where they were from.
Florida?
It might have been.
And they fought the HOA for like 7 years. That one
and lost. Yeah, they lost. So they didn't have any. They didn't have any sun in the backyard. The whole garden. It was a beautiful garden. Was in the front yard. They did this forever. They always had this garden out there, and all of a sudden, I don't know if they flipped over different HOA or whatever, but all of a sudden they were being told they couldn't have it. They fought it. They lost. They made them rip everything up and put in like sod or something.
Yeah.
But so it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Anytime you move into an HOA or anything, they dictate what the front yard is. So not necessarily do they always care what the backyard looks like. They only care about what it looks like from the street.
It's like business in the front, party in the back.
So yeah, it is true.
HOA mullet.
Yeah, well, and put it like this: with everything we have in the backyard, and you've seen photos of mine, my HOA has sent us letters about 4 dandelions in the front yard. Four. And I'm like, sure, I'll go out with my scissors and I'll no problem, guys. It's okay. I have also written them back and said, hey, you know what? Like we leave these because it's bee food and okay. And then they kind of let it be. There are a couple things you can do if you really want to be an asshole. Oh, here's a suggestion.
Put a bat house on your yard? Endangered species. Oh, I'm sorry. What? Go ahead.
Even worse than that. So you can contact your local windmill or radio tower companies. So it's federally stated that it does not matter, and on a small entity level, so HOA or county, any property in the United States, because radio towers trump every entity, like any smaller government, you can say, okay, we can't have the garden, but instead of a garden, we're going to put in a radio tower on our front lawn. And you legally can do that. And then they can say, the garden sounds great. Like, really? And same thing with a turbine, a wind turbine. Those are on a different level. They trump an HOA. So if you really wanted to be petty, say, well, it came down to, we were deciding to put a garden in, or we were talking about putting in a radio tower. And since you have returned this idea that we can't have a garden, we have decided the radio tower sounds wonderful. So that's an option.
Just made a little note there.
The other option is, and this also trumps HOA, is to get your yard as a native sanctuary. you only need, I think, 100 square feet or 200 square feet. Typically, this is a front lawn. And what this does is it trumps any HOA because now it is federally protected land. What this means is that you have to remove any grass, and it has to be a fully sustainable native garden. There are tons of edibles that are native. So it doesn't mean you can't touch it. It just means you can't have like, cucumbers or things like that. It has to be, unless it's native to your area. But if you have native things, you can plant them in permaculture and they cannot tell you anything. You also have to incorporate hiding spaces and some water source for native animals, bees, such like that. So they suggest like pollinators, but there's tons of food. So, and then there's also nationalized plants, which are not native to the United States, but because they grow so in abundance, they consider them nationalized. April's going broadcasting off her own time. Coming to you live.
The comments are really interesting. Well, honestly, food is getting more expensive. The government is getting weirder and weirder. I mean, it's just the laws are getting stranger.
Yeah.
And, I heard an expression once that, before things tend to collapse, the laws tend to get really, really insane. And it seems like we are, I don't want to say we're headed towards a collapse, but we are dealing with some very, very strange stuff right now.
Yeah. So there's other things you can do if you can't grow your own. Canning, freezing, dehydrating. These are things that even if you can't yourself grow, if you're in an apartment, if you're in a smaller area, if you're disabled and you physically cannot get yourself to wherever you're living, if you can every week, and this is something I do myself, I buy $10, just $10. If $10 is a lot, $5 will buy you a whole chicken. $5 buys you a whole chicken. You can bake it in the oven. You can cook it in a pressure cooker. Invest in a pressure canner. It is something that is so old. It has been used for so long and it has been forgotten. Pressure canning chicken will last you 3 to 5 years shelf life, no refrigeration. 3 to 5 years.
Really?
2 chickens will cost you around $10, $11. At least they are where I am. 5 pounds a piece, whichever. I can cook them frozen in my pressure canner. I can use it as a pressure cooker. And then I can put those chickens into quart jars. Quart jars is 4 cups of chicken. And I can get 5 to 6 quarts. That's 5 to 6 meals for $11. And that chicken will now last up to 5 years on a shelf in my laundry room. You can do this with carrots. You can do this with beef. You can do this with, leafy greens or spinach. Anything that is non-acidic can be pressure canned this way. If it is acidic, you can water bath it, which means you don't need a pressured container. So like pickles, things like that. But 5 years is a long time. Another thing
someone's asking can or jar. And yeah, I know you're talking about Michelle. Somebody's talking about a friend of ours that cans all the time.
Yeah.
So
babe, can you bring me up a can of chicken, please? That's how my husband.
So are you using a can? You're actually using
They are mason jars. You can do pints. They come in all sizes.
Okay.
You have the half pint, the pint jar, the quart. The only one they don't suggest doing it in is the half gallon because there is no regulated time. So for a quart jar, you're going to pressure can for 90 minutes. For a pint, it's 75 minutes. That is a really short amount of time considering it lasts you 5 years. Now, for me, I don't do this necessarily just for the sustainability part of it, but really because on days that I'm like exhausted and I don't want to cook, I literally go carrots, chicken, thanks, babe. So here's one that I did March 8th. And here's basically, this is chicken. So this is chicken stock from this bird. And it looks, I don't know if you can really tell what it looks like, but this will be the best chicken you've ever had. It is so tender, so juicy. It's not like canned from a store. It's not aluminum canned. Right. This is very different. So this chicken was cooked in the pressure cooker as a like I pressure cooked it
Mhm.
by itself and then put it into the jars. You can pressure can raw meat right into these. I did it this way because these were frozen. I cooked it from frozen.
Okay.
So it just depends on if you have raw meat, you can literally just stick the raw meat, put the top on, put it in your canner, set your timer, 5 years. It is so
Wow.
simple. And I really think if more people, for one, this is also the entire, the entire section of the bird. I get every piece of meat off these birds. I feel like a lot of times if you buy a whole bird, you're wasting at least a quarter of it. I mean, people do not flip the bird over. I mean, I do. I'm like, I paid for this sucker. Like,
Yeah, our birds, I think they're about $8 a piece now. You know what's
Yeah.
expensive is the actual jars. Where are you getting the jars that
Walmart.
are really? Okay.
Yep. Walmart. We get a pack for about 10, $11.
Okay.
And I think a dozen come in a pack. My pressure, I will say the pressure canner I got was $180, but it has made life so easy that I would buy it tenfold over. And you can do like I do my tatsoi, my kale. I can can it right up, can a whole can of kale, and then it's already cooked. And I can at the end of the day, I'm like, oh man, I'm really tired. But you know what I want? I want ramen. Okay, so I'm gonna grab that, grab some greens, and just put it in a pot. I mean, and canned broth to me is like the epic, like I can't have enough broth in my house because I use it for everything. And you can can potatoes. I mean, you can can everything except for like your like broccoli or cauliflower, because it would be like fart in a can. It wouldn't be good. It's not, you don't want to do that. It gets very mushy. But anything with some like more substance to it structurally, you can. But I think canning is, if you homestead, you have to can. I feel like they have to go hand in hand because you waste so much. And like you said, things are going to hit the fan. They're already there. They're already getting there. I don't know about Florida, but here in Texas, we have had a power grid issue for years. You know, when the freeze happened last year, early year, we had people dying in their homes. Our house, we had no heat, no electricity for 5 days. It was well into the low 20s in our house. My son was 3. Granted, like I said, I'm from Boston. My husband's from Michigan. We were like, yeehaw, old times. We're camping out. But, if you lose your ability to your appliances, well, now everything you've been freezing goes to waste.
Yeah, my friend said they had to break the ice on the pool to flush their toilets then.
Yeah.
They were from Texas and they were just freaking out the whole time.
It was awful. I mean, we were very fortunate that we had the chickens, the ducks, we had everything in the backyard. I could go and get it. We had a little charcoal grill. I made duck stew in my garage. It was, for us, it was okay, but the houses here were not set up for it. And a lot of people were not prepared. And another thing you can do is can water, which a lot of people don't know. You can can water. You can, you just need to use filtered water, but you can can it and it has a shelf life. So that's another option. And it's glass, so you don't have to worry about any type of like heating issue with plastic transfer or anything like that. So, but if you homestead or you want to homestead, I highly suggest you read up on preservation, whether it's canning, freezing, dehydrating, whatever. You have to really do one of them, if not all 3.
Okay.
So I had a question. Bringing up the freeze and the electricity type of thing. Being a homesteader, you seem like you're very self-sufficient in the type of things that you do, right? So making electricity is magnets and copper wire, and you just hook it up to a battery. So would you guys not have some kind of simple electrical grid that you guys could put in your house with simple, like I know like a bicycle generator or something like that, right? Where you could run certain things on your house for a few hours a day if needed like that. Is that something that you and your husband have looked into?
Yeah. So actually the plan is we are selling our current home to go 98% green. So the plan is to go to a home that has a generator, a solar power generator at that, and to incorporate more green sustainable energy. Here, we have talked about it. I honestly don't know enough about it on a smaller scale. And we've looked into solar here, but again, we are so tired of this house that we are just ready. This house is cursed. So, but yes, we are. We've had 2 floods and a fire in this one damn house. It is like
Okay.
Yeah. Probably not. Yeah. Let's not.
The,
No,
let's
we
not-
are done.
the spirits are telling you to move.
You don't even. That's a whole different podcast we gotta go over. It's like, oh Lord, we have we call her the ghost girl.
Oh, I was just joking. No,
there's no joke here.
Okay.
So yeah, but when we do move, the idea is that we will be actually, we're looking at a stucco house to build. They're also called earthen homes, and basically that's using clay, natural clay from the area, and water with 5% concrete. And what this does, it would actually remove the need for any heating elements and AC elements. So that would be a huge step. There's a local company here that builds these bricks. They are fireproof, they are like the doomsday brick, and we want a house made out of them. So
I've seen those. They do the printing, the 3D printing for the houses. They use them in like Haiti and the areas that get hit with hurricanes pretty badly.
Yes.
They're using those there because they survive.
Yeah, actually, the company that is here in San Antonio supplies Haiti with some of the machinery.
The printing material.
Yep. So that's something we've already talked to them about. Mm-hmm. And it would be, now we could either buy the machine and build it ourselves, or we can just hire them to build the bricks and they help us build the house. So we haven't really decided. But when I tell people I want like an Encanto house, that's like kind of my envision is like, a house with like a courtyard that, we can use more plants. But yes, the ultimate goal is to go have a well on the property. That is a big thing. Mm-hmm. And a well by itself, which if you don't know when looking at property, a well can run you between $7,000 and $30,000+ just to drill. And that doesn't mean they're going to find water. But having a well does give you freedom in a lot of ways, especially if you own animals. A lot of people here also have stock ponds. So that's another one. If you have animals, that having a stock pond removes, you're having to fill water every day or every week or so. But yes, we will eventually. It's with homesteading. It's like next year we're gonna, and then next year we're gonna. It's it's like the never ending.
We grew up. It's funny in the house. The house now would be so fashionable, but at the time, we were just poor and living on a military paycheck. But we had a well. We had a wood stove. That's how we heated the whole house.
And that's
We had a garden. The plumbing was, what the hell was it? The thing that your father always screams at you about when he has to go unclog it all. I don't want to say sump pump.
Oh, septic.
Septic. Yeah.
Septic.
Yeah, and it's, you can only use Scott paper with that. And believe it or not, there was actually an extra outhouse. It was an older house, so there was an outhouse in the back too. It was crazy. And this kind of house now, and there was a barn too, would be so in vogue now.
Yeah, right. And the other thing that we've also looked at, which I've talked about them, and they're a little on the pricey side, but I think they're kind of worth it. They're called biobag toilets. And so if you have a septic, how fast a septic, now we're city water, luckily for that. But with septic, you fill up really quickly. So the idea of a biobag toilet is these specialized toilets that are hooked up to basically a Mylar bag. And every time you flush the toilet, the human waste now becomes a type of propane. So it's methane. Mm-hmm. And in turn, you can use it for a gas stove. So it's very efficient because it doesn't require a lot of water. I want to say per flush was like 2 quarts or something. It was a very small amount of water, so not a lot of water. They also make them for composting. So as a composter, you can use it as a bio bag and turn it into usable gas as well for a stove. So those are things we've also looked into, which I want to say the toilets were like $2,000 a piece, but they came as like the whole set, you know. But I really want it because I just I want to be like, I just cooked dinner. You know, like I don't know.
That's
It kind of makes it a little more like you know,
ironic.
Yeah.
It feeds into itself.
I know. So, and those come from Europe. Those are from the UK, I believe. So
I do, because they're using like leftover coffee grounds. They're putting those into like bricks, and they're using those to feed furnaces too.
Yeah, and you can actually go to any coffee house, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts. If you call ahead and ask for any of their coffee grounds, you get it for free. So I'm talking pounds and pounds, and that you can put into your garden. You can put that into your chicken coop. So there's I feel like a lot of times there's so much we can utilize that is missed.
Yep.
So for instance, I grow all my own food. And I hear people say like, you don't like broccoli. Okay. But I say, yeah, but you're only eating the flower. Like there's 100 leaves on that plant. Eat it. There's a stalk on that plant, man. Like you can peel it and eat it.
Cilantro. Like, people only pick the leaves off. You get the stem too.
I eat the whole plant.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, that's like my daily treat. I'm out there eating, but it's but the same thing with zucchini. Zucchini leaves are edible. Zucchini stems are edible. And on my TikTok, I talk a lot about that part of gardening is that we often grow for the smallest part of the plant.
Yeah, so but it's like
you're missing. My TikTok is modern day Snow White, so it's
okay.
But it's
right
yes, okay. On my picture. But I try to talk about plants as not just edible but medicinal. So almost majority of plants have a medicinal use as well. Whether it's basil, oregano, even cucumbers, for instance, have a ton of health benefits. And I think people get into this mundane idea of I have to eat because I have to survive. And when we start looking at food as really medicine, and we start looking at our bodies we have to start looking at our bodies as more than just you can't just fuel it without understanding what you're putting in it. Okay, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger. Okay, well, what the hell's in that cheeseburger? What is in that?
Nobody asks what's in anything anymore. If we've learned anything in the past year and a half, we have learned that it is safe and effective. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, and I don't abide by that, but even I don't care if it says organic, FDA approved. Sasquatch said it was a good. I don't care. I don't go by those labels because labels are for consumers. I am not a consumer. I think that's really what it comes down to is you can go into a store and buy gluten-free strawberries. Well, right? No shit.
I laugh every time I see something obvious. It's because it's gluten-free. Coffee is gluten-free. I'm like, what the fuck did coffee ever have gluten in it to be free of it? What? Well, is this actually a selling point now?
Yes. And it's one of those things where I try to explain to people, it doesn't matter if you're eating organic. It doesn't matter because pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides are being used on them in the same ratio they are being used on any other plant. There may be a few that, organic don't use, and I get that. But they are still using herbicides. They are still using these insecticides. So you have to understand, not everything organic doesn't mean safe. Organic doesn't mean humane. And that's I want to highlight that. Organic does not mean humane. Okay.
Oh, okay. While you're here, while you're talking about that, let's explain to people the difference with the weaponized language that marketing and media is. What free range eggs the various different levels of eggs for people, because a lot of them think if they're getting cage free or free range, they're actually getting this, this chicken on a happy farm that's running around and giving them a happy egg. Can you please explain what they're actually getting, what that means?
So unless you're buying pasture raised, which means pasture is that they're literally out in a pasture. And a lot of these terminology, they are very targeted.
Yes.
Very, very targeted. So cage free means it's not in a cage. That does not necessarily mean it's outside. So most chickens, they're called Cornish crosses. These are what we are raising for meat. They are raised in steel buildings. They are shoulder to shoulder. They are not given any space for actual grass, but they're not in a cage, so they're considered cage free.
Yep.
And it's very disheartening, because understanding that especially chickens are communal animals, they are very intelligent animals. They can learn people who, they have a relationship with their owners. They have a relationship with their owner's kids, their dog, the neighbor.
My chickens listen better than my cat does.
They do understand. They will call. Chickens can learn their own name. They can learn tricks. They are very intelligent animals. Now I am one person to also in the same state and say meat is meat. Okay. So I don't ever say, oh, this animal is probably off my list. I will say that if I were to travel to any country and they said, with the exception of maybe a few, personally, I would say, okay, I'll try it.
I've eaten horse. I get where you're.
Yeah,
I get it.
So that I don't have a problem with. My issue is how the animal was raised, not what the animal is.
Humanely raised. Yes.
So I get people that will say, "How dare you slaughter your chickens?" I say, "Let me tell you something. My chickens had one bad day. One. My chickens woke up. They had grass. They had sunlight. They got treats. They got pets. They got love. They had one bad day. They won't even remember." Mm-hmm. Every chicken that comes from a commercial facility is given antibiotics. Now, why do they give animals antibiotics? Well, because they do not have facilities that are clean enough. Chickens especially they have high ammonia levels in their fecal matter. So picture a steel building that's, say, 500 feet long. Let's say you can fit 1,000 birds in there. Okay, these birds are shoulder to shoulder, going to the bathroom every minute. There is no way possible they're going to keep that steel building clean enough that the feet of these birds will not get injured, that they're not going to stand on each other, that they're not going to have inhalation problems. Now, these buildings typically do have ventilation systems. And yes, these birds also have a core temperature of 105 degrees. That is a lot of heat with a lot of birds, and they have lamps on them. Now, these are buildings that do not have sunlight. They don't have any natural lighting. They have artificial fluorescence. So you have to give these animals antibiotics
so they don't get
because they don't have and it's the same thing when I hear people say, well, I give my chickens medicated starter, which is very common, and I'm not going to knock it. But if you have a clean coop and your birds have a sanitary area, you don't need extra medication. That is a precautionary for people who buy too many and don't know how to count and then go, I only bought 5 and I ended up with 500 in a week span. Yeah. So, but yeah, labels are for consumers. They are, they call it green labeling, right? So a shampoo company can put on natural, 98% natural. And then you flip it over and you're looking at, in a plastic bottle, the ingredients. And yes, there may be natural ingredients, or naturally derived, but those words are for you to feel like you're doing something good. And necessarily that is not true, because humane and natural are not the same thing. And we have to understand this. You can humanely raise and slaughter a chicken, and you can naturally raise one, sure, but those are not the same. They're not one and the same. And if you are someone who is bought by labels, if you're the person who stands at the checkout and goes, oh, I need this, oh, I need this, and you didn't need it 5 seconds before you walked into that checkout line, you are the person they are selling to. If you're not a person who picks up Google in a store and Googles an ingredient to see what it is, if you're not the person who says, gluten-free strawberries, well, what the hell is that? And you don't look it up, you're the person they're selling to. Because they are telling you you are not smart enough to know any better.
They tell us that. They say that to us all the time. And you know what? A lot of times they're right.
Yeah, and I go, la, 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 la.
Right? I know. So we vote with our dollars. So if you keep buying cage-free instead of pasture raised, you're just feeding into that system. Because we are the market of the almighty. We pray to the almighty dollar in this country. So where your dollars go matters.
Here's the shocker. And if people don't know this, they're going to know it now. Your eggs that you're buying in a store are
so old.
8 months old.
So old. I knew you were going to say that too. I just was like, so old.
6 to 8 months old by the time eggs hit a store shelf. So when you, when we talk about things oxidizing, when we talk about food that is deteriorating, we are talking about food that once it is ripe, once it is picked, once it is harvested, it instantaneously starts to diminish in nutritional value. Okay. So these eggs, one, they're washed, which that is that's a law. It's a federal law. I don't agree with it. And for anyone who doesn't own birds, simply put, when birds lay eggs, you don't wash them. So when birds lay eggs, they have what they call a bloom. The bloom is a coating that coats the egg to make the shell impenetrable. It makes it so bacteria can't get in it. It keeps the baby safe, right? So a mommy bird would sit on the egg, and it essentially has to protect it from bacteria. So when you wash an egg,
so if mommy bird also poops on the egg, it's all good.
We're good. So when we wash our eggs, we are removing this coat. And it's there for a purpose. It's like your eyelashes, your eyelids, they're there for a reason. Don't, if you remove it, now you get a problem. So this is where salmonella is kind of more prevalent in store-bought eggs, or a risk, because you have removed the coating of the egg that protects the egg from bacteria. So now you have a little incubation of, cultured bacteria, and you have to be careful. Whereas if you get eggs locally, they may look dirty, they may have something on it. You wash it before you eat it by about 10 seconds. You just wash it then. You don't wash it and hold it.
I don't even do that. I just crack that fucker and put it right on in there.
Listen, I wasn't going to say that. Okay.
I'm saying it. I don't bother.
I
don't care. So. I haven't knocked wood. No. I've been doing it for years.
No, I'm the same way. I don't. No, yeah, I don't typically. I just like.
That's right.
It's a little wet still. But this also is with our fruit. Yes. With our fruit, this is very similar. So fruit is typically picked unripe and up to 2 years prior to consumption. 2 years. So your oranges, things like that, they can be picked up to 2 years, and especially if they're imported.
Wow.
So, it's getting dark in here. I just realized I have TV light on. So yeah, it really depends on what you're eating. Because it oxidizes.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up. I was watching a documentary a while back where a farmer raised, processed, and sold his own chickens. They tried to shut him down because he didn't follow proper procedure, and he sent it off to be analyzed. It turns out his was actually cleaner than the chickens need to be sold in the stores.
Yeah. So if it depends on your state. For me in Texas, I can slaughter 1,000 birds on my property with no permit. Every state is different. But yeah, it is very true. So commercially raised meat, I think, and here's the other part of that. When you watch PETA commercials, or you watch these demonized videos of how animals are slaughtered, it gives a very unrealistic view of how it actually happens. I do a free demo anytime we slaughter our chickens. I do a free demo. Come to my yard. Come to my yard.
I can't do it. My chickens, when if they're named, that's it. They're named. They're there until they're not there anymore. But it's not by my own hand. It's like
we do like
they're for eggs,
lunch, dinner. No,
I know. That's what you name them. A lunch.
So we
snacks.
We raise
snacks.
meat,
Come here, you want a
meat
snack?
Birds for meat.
So do you have broilers?
So we do that twice a year.
I think it's funny that meat birds are actually called. You guys, meat birds are actually called. The breed is broilers.
Yes. So
I'm sorry.
The
I didn't mean to laugh.
Cross, the Cornish cross is a genetic. It's awful. It's really just not. It's not healthy. It's not a healthy.
It's tit heavy, right? It just falls over.
So
it is. It's tit heavy. It gets to a point it falls over.
When I tell this to people and they're like, "How can you slaughter your birds? That's awful." I say this: if I don't, they die.
They're gonna die.
I mean that in a literal sense. These birds are a crossbreed. It takes 5 generations to create. You can't you can't raise these yourself. You can raise heritage breeds all day long. Yeah. They're going to take you 10 months. Okay. The Cornish cross is raised to go from hatch date to 10 pounds in 8 weeks flat. 8 weeks. They eat 18 pounds of feed per bird in that time. That is nothing. 18 pounds of feed from hatch to 8 weeks. Per bird. That is how you calculate what it'll cost you per bird. These are bred to grow so fast that their legs can break. They will have heart attacks. Their lungs will collapse. They are susceptible to what's called green meat disease, which is basically very deep bruising. They don't roost. They don't crow.
You have to kill them.
They're pretty much sterile. I know some people will say, "Oh, I've had mine for whatever and it laid an egg." Well, okay, you may get 2 eggs out of the thing ever. The roosters don't crow, but they are the dopiest, sweetest freaking birds you've ever had, and I love them. It's like I do have a soft spot.
It's a good 8 months. Is that what you're saying?
Weeks. Not even 8. It's 8 weeks.
Oh, 8 weeks. Oh my god.
8 weeks. It's very short.
That's so young.
In that time, they put on roughly a pound a week.
That's so much.
Yeah. So when you think of how if that was you, if you put on a pound a week.
Oh yeah.
You know, well, I mean,
honestly, even if it wasn't
like
we're humans, you know how achy and sore our joints would be after 2 months. Like 8 more pounds, like that fast on us.
Yeah.
That's so dramatic.
They get very big, but when I say their breast meat, a single breast can be over 2 pounds. I mean, these are large birds. Almost small turkey.
I'm laughing because Andrew Rojas said, I named mine after female wrestlers, Jackie, Lita, Luna. That's hilarious. I would like you to name one of your chickens after me. Come here, April. As you're sharpening the knife. Come here, April.
I mean, they do have some big breasts.
There you go. Yes, I want you to name one of your broiler ones after me.
Yeah.
Well, we have to wrap it up, but we'll cut it. Roosters don't crow. Roosters that don't crow sounds good for people that don't want to get up too early, right? Right.
But they only live to be 8 weeks, so
I know.
Then it's over.
I know. Well, again, they can find you on TikTok at moderndays_Snow White, which I love that. And thank you for being here, and thanks to everybody who has subscribed. Thank you for throwing bits. Thank you for being a part of our Corgos. Thank you for being part of our Patreon. You can find the rest of our shows on patreon.com/the A Show, where we bring our A game and where smart is the new sexy. You can also see, hey, TikTok, how you doing?
They can't hear you because I'm on earbuds, but so they've just been listening to me talk.
Hi, how are you? Let's see. I'll also be out in Dallas at WrestleCon on that Saturday during WrestleMania. So if you're walking around, look for me. I'll be around there. I might
Or
be at
come
a
to
booth, I
San
might not.
Antonio.
Or San Antonio. And I will be back here again at 7:30 on Tuesday night. You never know who's going to pop in and be on here or what hair color I'm going to have this week. So hopefully we will see you again. See all of you who are in here today next week. And if you have any suggestions, requests, questions, feel free to submit them. And you can find Sarah on her page if you have more questions for her. So get to homesteading. You know what? You pick up the seeds and grab your 5-gallon buckets and start layering up your twigs, your dirt, your sand, your everything, and see how that goes for you. And if you do anything and get anything going, send us a picture. Let's see what you produce. So get self-sustaining, people.
Or as I say, homesteading. If you don't, you should be.
I like it. All right, everybody, have a good. Oh, we do a pack flex at the end. Would you like to pack flex with us?
I don't have any bags. I go.
There you go.
I can't do that.
I'll just shake them. Just shake them. Then that's what we do.
That's all I
there
got.
we go. I love it. Yay. All right, everybody, have a good one, and we will see you next Tuesday. Good night, Winona. Have a good one. Mwah.
Bye.